Hi everyone, welcome to another one of my videos. In this video, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Punisher Season 2. Now, as I've mentioned before in a few of my other videos, I'm a huge fan of these Marvel Netflix shows. I think they've done some really great stuff with these Marvel Netflix shows, even though lately they have been a little bit hit or miss. But just to give my thoughts on Punisher Season 1, my quick thoughts. Ultimately, Punisher Season 1 I thought was good. I thought it told a good story. However, I don't think it told a great Punisher story. It wasn't him going after criminals in terms of what I think a Punisher story should be. Right off the bat, the best thing I can say about Punisher Season 2 is that it tells a much better Punisher story in terms of the things you want to see the Punisher doing, mainly him going after criminals, which is what I just mentioned earlier. It takes a little bit to get going just because the initial setup of the show is that he ends up trying to settle down in life, adjusting to real life after he sort of went on his crusade in Season 1. But now he's trying to settle down, but he gets involved with a situation of a girl that ends up needing his help. A sort of new assassin is going after her. He ends up trying to having to protect the girl now, sort of takes her along his wing. And actually, those first few episodes of him protecting this girl in this small town and some scenes involving the police and the sheriff's office, some really good stuff. I really enjoyed those first few setup episodes. Then things unfortunately got a little slow because there are a few episodes of him in New York where he's just not doing shit. It's just him hanging around. Not great stuff, those episodes. Thankfully, after that, he gets into full Punisher mode, and the show is a lot of fun to watch after that because he's mainly doing the stuff I want to see the Punisher doing, which is him going after criminals and him just being ruthless. He does not hold back. The show does not hold back when it comes to the action going on in Season 2, man. Just like in Season 1, some absolutely brutal stuff in terms of the action, the fist fights, the gun violence, great stuff. I think I like the fist fights the most just because it is absolutely brutal. Just the blows that he's giving to these criminals, just the trauma, just the violence, the blood, all of that stuff is definitely the type of stuff that you want to see the Punisher doing. One of the better scenes is a scene involving him fighting some Russians in a gym. That scene was absolutely brutal in terms of what he did to the main guy who was going after him. Great stuff. But all the action in the show is great, so it definitely delivered on that for sure. And once again, John Bernthal is great as the Punisher. He plays this role really well. He shows a whole lot of suffering, whole lot of pain. He plays the crazy parts really well, where the Punisher is being a lot more manic, but also does a whole lot of parts where he's being more human, showing his tender side, especially the scenes where he's with his new friend Amy. That stuff was really good, and the whole cast does a great job also. But now let's go ahead and talk about the villains of this show. The villains are usually the main thing that push these Marvel Netflix shows into that great territory. The villains are the reason why Daredevil season 3 was so great, or a big reason why, and a big reason why Jessica Jones season 1 was great was because of their villains. Here in their Punisher season 2, our main villain is Billy Russo, better known by his comic book name as Jigsaw. In season 2, he becomes the Jigsaw character after what happened to him at the end of season 1. And right off the bat, the big elephant in the room that we've got to discuss is his look. And his look is very disappointing if you're going from what Jigsaw is supposed to look like. Obviously, for people that do know, Jigsaw is a character that's horribly scarred and his face is all fucked up. His face got shredded and it looks like it's all stitched together in a very bad fashion. Now, look, and we've had the two main versions of Jigsaw that people know about are obviously his incarnations from the comics, and he was in Punisher Warzone from 2008. Now, look, I don't need him to look as nasty as the Warzone or comic book version, but the version that they came up here, they didn't even try. He looks like a guy that just has a few cat scratches on him. And what's really disappointing is that it's one thing if he wasn't supposed to be scarred that way because of how his injuries were. But at the end of Punisher season 1, his face got destroyed. It was an absolutely brutal scene that I rewatched not too long ago, and just remembering that scene, the way his face gets shredded, how it gets bashed in that mirror, it is absolutely horrifying. Along with that screen and just how you see the aftermath of his face, and then when you see him in that hospital with bandages all around him, got me really hyped to see what he looks like in season 2. And his look in season 2 is absolutely pathetic. Like I said, it looks like it's just a few little cat scratches that he's got, and it just makes the character not what it's supposed to be, because the way it's supposed to be this pretty guy that has to suffer now because his face is so ugly. And in this show, he's acting like his face is so ugly, but everyone's reaction to it, at least people who are watching the show, are just like, his face is not all that bad. He looks like he's still a handsome guy. He's just got a few scars, but scars are nothing. His face should have been a whole lot more fucked up. So that was extremely disappointing. And my biggest issue with the show by far, I think that was a really bad creative decision that they went with. Because the character itself, I thought was actually written pretty well. It's a lot more grounded from obviously your crazy comic book version or the Warzone version. It's the thing that these Netflix shows, they try and ground the universe in terms of reality. I thought the character was written pretty well in terms of what they were going with, in terms of him being mentally scarred, and his relationship with the psychiatrist I thought was really good. A lot of good drama there. But like I said, just fucking up with the face is sort of unforgivable in terms of what you want to see from Jigsaw, even though the character I thought was written pretty decently. The other villain that we've got is John Pilgrim, this sort of new assassin that comes in at the beginning of the show, and he's after this girl named Amy, who the Punisher's got to protect. Largely, this character I was not crazy about. A few good action scenes here and there, but largely it was sort of just like a weird side story going on through the show. But I will say, in the final few episodes, the payoff for the storyline is pretty good. So I did end up feeling more positive about it towards the end. But largely throughout the show, I thought the storyline was mainly nothing. But still, there was a ton to enjoy about Punisher Season 2. A lot of the storylines have some really good payoffs in those final few episodes. The action is, of course, fantastic. So much fun to watch. And as I mentioned earlier, this season tells much more of a real Punisher story in terms of him going after criminals, which that's a lot better for me to watch personally. So I'm going to end up giving Punisher Season 2 an 8 out of 10. Despite the reviews, which have been really mixed, I personally really enjoyed the show. Unfortunately, this is likely going to be the last season of the Punisher show that we're going to get, almost certain to be, just because everybody knows the whole cancellation thing that's going on with these Marvel Netflix shows. Got rid of Iron Fist, got rid of Luke Cage, got rid of Daredevil, and likely Punisher is going to be next. But thankfully, like Daredevil season 3, this season 2 ends on a story note to where it's a good closer, to where there's no cliffhangers, nothing like that. So we get a good sort of wrap up of this sort of this iteration of the Punisher storyline. So that's definitely good also. So that's it for this review. I hope y'all enjoyed my review of Punisher Season 2, and I will see y'all around with another video.